The day I buried my husband was supposed to be one of solemn reflection, yet it turned into a stage for my son's audacity. The air was thick with the scent of fresh-cut flowers, mixed with the faint smell of earth, as mourners gathered in hushed tones around the casket. I stood there, my heart heavy, feeling the weight of grief settle like a shroud over my shoulders. My son, however, was unyielding, rising like a specter from the shadows of my sorrow. In front of our family and friends, he declared that he would inherit everything, his voice booming over the quiet whispers of the crowd. It was as if he had stripped me bare, reducing me to nothing more than a bystander in my own life, and I could feel the heat of humiliation creeping up my neck. As his words hung in the air, a wave of confusion crashed over me. I glanced around, seeking solace in the eyes of those who had come to pay their respects, but all I found were uneasy glances and awkward smiles, a collective discomfort that mirrored my own. I could feel my heart racing, pounding against my ribcage as if trying to break free from the confines of this moment. The murmurs around me grew louder, like a cacophony of judgment, and I felt myself sinking deeper into despair. How could he think he had the right to claim what was never his? My husband had built a legacy, one that I was determined to uphold, yet here I was, standing in the shadow of my son's arrogance. Memories of happier times flooded my mind, uninvited yet insistent. I recalled the laughter we shared as a family, the warmth of my husband's embrace, his voice promising me that we would face anything together. Now all I felt was betrayal. My son had always been ambitious, but this was something else entirely. How had he come to believe that he could usurp my place, taking what was rightfully mine? The questions swirled in my mind, each one a dagger, piercing through the fog of my grief. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I remained frozen, a statue of sorrow and disbelief. The funeral reception was even worse. Surrounded by family and friends, I felt like an outcast in my own life. The awkward laughter that filled the room was a cruel reminder of my isolation. I could hear snippets of conversations, people whispering about my son's boldness, their eyes darting toward me as if to gauge my reaction. With every chuckle, I felt the sting of humiliation deepen. I fought the urge to retreat, to escape the suffocating atmosphere that had become my reality. Instead, I forced a smile, a mask of composure that felt increasingly fragile. My hands trembled slightly as I clutched the fabric of my dress, the texture grounding me in the moment, reminding me that I was still here, still fighting. As the day wore on, I could feel the walls closing in around me. I took a moment to step outside, the cool breeze brushing against my skin, a stark contrast to the heated emotions swirling within. I closed my eyes, inhaling the scent of rain on the pavement, hoping it would wash away the bitterness I felt. Yet all I could think about was my son, standing tall and proud, unaware of the depths of my pain. The betrayal was a gaping wound, and I was left to grapple with the reality that he had chosen ambition over family, power over love. I was losing not just my husband, but my place in the world we had built together. I knew I had to reclaim my identity, to fight against the tide of my son's ambitions. But how? The questions lingered, echoing in my mind like a haunting melody. The path ahead seemed murky, filled with uncertainty and doubt. I had to confront my son, to challenge the assumptions he held so tightly. But could I do it? Would I find the strength within me to stand up for what was right? The internal battle raged on as I stepped back inside, determined to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant confronting the very person I had nurtured and loved. The atmosphere in the family home was thick with tension, a stark contrast to the floral scents that had lingered from the funeral. I stood in the living room, my gaze drifting over the familiar surroundings that now felt foreign. The walls were adorned with photographs that captured moments of laughter and joy, yet all I could see were reminders of my husband's absence. I could hear the faint sound of clinking glasses and muted conversations from the reception, each laugh a dagger to my heart. My son, standing proudly at the center of it all, was basking in the attention, unaware of the storm brewing within me. I clenched my fists at my sides, feeling the rough texture of the fabric of my dress as I fought to steady my breathing. The warmth of the room was suffocating, and I could feel my heart racing, each beat a reminder of the humiliation I had just endured. How could he have done this to me? My thoughts spiraled back to the moment he had claimed the inheritance, his voice slicing through my grief like a cold blade. I could still hear the whispers of our family and friends, their awkward laughter echoing in my ears as if they were mocking my despair. It was unbearable. Determined to confront my son, I took a deep breath, my chest tightening with the weight of my resolve. I had to challenge him, to reclaim my place in our family. As I stepped into the dining room, the buzz of conversation faded and all eyes turned to me. I felt the heat of their stares, a mix of sympathy and curiosity. My son's gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment I saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, quickly replaced by arrogance. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked, feigning concern. The condescension in his tone ignited a fire within me. "I'm fine, but we need to talk," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I could feel the weight of the room's attention pressing down on me, but I pushed through the discomfort. He smirked, leaning back against the table. About what? The future of the family business? Because I've already made plans. You should just relax and let me handle it. His words were like poison, each syllable a reminder of the betrayal I felt. I could feel my breath hitching in my throat, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Memories of my husband's hard work flooded my mind, the late nights spent building our legacy from the ground up. How could he be so blind to the sacrifices made? You think this is just about the business? I challenged, stepping closer, my heart pounding in my chest. This is about respect, about honoring your father's memory. You don't just get to take everything because you want it. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. I could hear the soft rustling of fabric as my family shifted uncomfortably, caught in the crossfire of our confrontation. My son's expression darkened, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind, calculating his next move. You're being dramatic, Mom. It's not like you had any real stake in it anyway, he shot back, his voice rising, echoing off the walls. It was as if he had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart, each word a reminder of my vulnerability. Not a stake, I've been here supporting your father, building this family. I spat, the frustration boiling over. My hands shook with emotion, the heat of my anger battling against the chill of despair that threatened to engulf me. I could feel the tears welling up, but I refused to let them fall. I was done being the silent observer in my own life. You don't understand what it takes to run a business, Emma, he yelled, using my name as a weapon. The way he said it felt alien, as if he were talking about someone else entirely. The fight drained out of me for a moment, leaving only a hollow ache. I had to remind myself who I was, not just as his mother, but as a woman who had stood beside her husband through thick and thin. I understand more than you think, I replied, my voice low but firm. I've been the one holding this family together while you've been chasing dreams. I won't let you erase your father's legacy. With those words, I felt a shift within me, a flicker of determination igniting in the depths of my sorrow. I would not allow his arrogance to overshadow the love and dedication I had poured into our family. I took a step back, feeling the weight of the room's gaze upon me, but this time it felt different. I was ready to fight for what was right. I had to confront him, to make him understand the gravity of his actions. As the evening wore on, I could feel the tension between us simmering, a storm waiting to break. I needed a plan, a way to ensure that my voice was heard, that my husband's legacy would not be lost to ambition. I glanced around the room, the faces of my family a mix of concern and curiosity. I knew I had to gather my thoughts to prepare myself for the battle ahead. The night was far from over, and the confrontation had only just begun. My heart raced with anticipation and fear, but beneath it all, there was a burgeoning sense of resolve. I would confront my son, reclaim my power, and honor the memory of the man I loved. It was time to turn the tide in my favor, and I would do whatever it took to protect my family's legacy. The shadows of betrayal loomed large in my mind as I sat alone in my dimly lit bedroom, the air heavy with the scent of lavender from the candles flickering on my nightstand. The walls around me, once vibrant with family photographs, now felt like a prison, echoing with memories that seemed to mock my current plight. I traced the outline of a photo of my husband and me on our wedding day, his smile a beacon of love that now felt like a distant memory. My heart ached, a physical pain that resonated with the humiliation I had just endured. As I lay back against the cool silk of my pillow, my thoughts spiraled into a cacophony of confusion and anger. How could my son, the boy I raised, stand in front of a room full of people and claim everything that belonged to us? I could still hear his voice, bold and brash, cutting through the air like a knife, reducing me to a mere shadow of my former self. My jaw clenched at the recollection, a tremor running through my fingers as they gripped the fabric of my gown, feeling the texture as if it could anchor me to this reality. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but the weight of my grief held me captive, suffocating my spirit. The funeral reception had been a masquerade of strained smiles and awkward laughter. Each chuckle that filled the air felt like a betrayal, a reminder of the gulf that had opened between me and those who once stood by my side. I remembered the way my family had shifted uncomfortably as my son made his declaration, their eyes flickering between him and me, seeking an unspoken validation for his audacity. I longed for someone to speak up, to defend me, but instead, I was left standing alone in a sea of judgment, my heart pounding in my chest as if it were trying to escape the reality of my circumstances. In the midst of the crowd, I caught a glimpse of my mother, her face etched with concern, yet her eyes betrayed a hint of satisfaction. She had always believed that a son should inherit his father's legacy, and I could sense her disapproval of my attempts to assert myself. The thought gnawed at me, stirring a cauldron of frustration within. I had spent years supporting my husband, pouring my heart and soul into the life we built together, only to be dismissed by my own flesh and blood. I needed to confront my son, to reclaim my dignity, but how could I muster the courage to face him? My mind raced, each scenario more daunting than the last. As the evening wore on, I could feel the tension in the air, pulsing like electricity as I gathered my thoughts, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. I could hear the chatter of guests mingling, their laughter a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. The dining room felt like a battleground, a space where I would have to defend not just my husband's legacy, but my very existence. I took a deep breath, the air filling my lungs with a mixture of resolve and anxiety, and stepped into the fray. "Mom, you okay?" My son asked from the center of the room, his tone dripping with feigned concern, as if he were genuinely worried about my state of mind. I felt the heat of anger rise within me, the condescension in his voice a stark reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. "I'm fine, but we need to talk," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremors coursing through my body. I could feel the eyes of our family bore into me, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. I had to assert myself, to prove that I was not the weak figure he believed me to be. He leaned back against the table, a smirk playing on his lips. "About what? The future of the family business? Because I've already made plans, you should just relax and let me handle it." His words pierced through me, each syllable a reminder of the power struggle that had erupted between us. "Do you honestly think this is just about the business?" I challenged, stepping closer, my heart racing. "This is about respect, about honoring your father's memory. You don't just get to take everything because you want it." My voice rose, reflecting the turmoil within me, the weight of my husband's legacy pressing down on my shoulders. The room fell silent, and I could hear the soft rustle of my family shifting uneasily, caught in the crossfire of our confrontation. I met my son's gaze, and for a brief moment I thought I saw hesitation flicker in his eyes, quickly replaced by a hardened expression. "You're being dramatic, Mom. It's not like you had any real stake in it anyway," he shot back, his voice rising defiantly. Every word felt like a slap to my face, and I could feel my breath hitching in my throat, anger bubbling beneath the surface. The memories of my husband's hard work flooded my mind, late nights spent poring over documents, the sacrifices made for our family's future. Not a stake. "I've been here supporting your father, building this family," I spat, my frustration boiling over. My hands shook, the heat of my anger battling against the chill of despair threatening to engulf me. I could feel the tears welling up, but I refused to let them fall. I would not be the silent observer any longer. "You don't understand what it takes to run a business, Emma," he yelled, his words a dagger that pierced through my heart. Hearing my name spoken with such disdain felt like a betrayal, as if he were trying to erase my identity. I took a moment to collect myself, feeling the weight of my resolve harden within me. "I understand more than you think," I replied, my voice low but firm. "I've been the one holding this family together while you've been chasing dreams. I won't let you erase your father's legacy." As those words left my lips, a flicker of determination ignited within me. I would not allow his arrogance to overshadow the love and dedication I had poured into our family. I took a step back, feeling the weight of the room's gaze upon me, but this time it felt different. I was ready to fight for what was right. The night still lay ahead, and the confrontation had only just begun. My heart raced with anticipation and fear, but beneath it all, a burgeoning sense of resolve filled me. I would confront my son, reclaim my power, and honor the memory of the man I loved. The tide was turning, and I was prepared to battle for my family's legacy. The next day, the sunlight streamed through my bedroom window, casting long shadows across the room, as if the world outside was oblivious to the turmoil brewing within me. I sat at my small desk, a cup of lukewarm coffee cooling beside me, the bitter aroma mingling with the lingering scent of lavender from last night's candle. The legal documents lay sprawled before me, their starkness a cruel reminder of the battle I now faced. My fingers trembled as I reached out, feeling the crisp edges of the papers, my heart racing with a mix of determination and dread. As I began to read, the words blurred together, each line echoing my son's arrogance from the day before. The legal jargon felt like a foreign language, yet it was imbued with implications that could change everything. I could almost hear his voice, dripping with condescension, as he dismissed my contributions to our family's legacy. The anger bubbled within me, hot and consuming, igniting a fire that I hadn't fully realized was there. Memories of my husband's hard work flooded my mind, reminding me of the countless late nights he'd spent building our life together. I felt a sharp pang of loss stab at my heart as I recalled his laughter, his wisdom guiding me through life's complexities. How could my son so easily forget the sacrifices made, the dreams built on the foundation of love and labor? With each word I read, my resolve hardened. I would not let my husband's legacy be reduced to nothingness by my son's misguided ambition. The door creaked open, and Lily peeked her head in, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "Hey, I brought you some tea. You look like you could use it," she said softly, stepping into the room and placing the steaming mug beside my coffee. Her presence was a balm to my frayed nerves, yet I felt the weight of my situation pressing down on me like a heavy fog. "Thank you, Lily. I'm just trying to make sense of all this." I gestured to the papers, my voice trailing off as frustration bubbled to the surface once more. My son thinks he can just take everything without acknowledging the effort that went into building our family and business. It's infuriating. Lily's brow furrowed and she stepped closer, her hand resting on my shoulder. Emma, you have to confront him. It's not just about the business, it's about your dignity. You deserve to be heard, and this is your chance to stand up for yourself. Her words ignited something within me, a flicker of empowerment that spread through my veins like wildfire. I nodded, determined to not only reclaim my husband's legacy, but also my own identity. I needed to find a way to confront my son without letting him belittle my feelings again. I found some documents that might hold the key to this whole situation, I said, my voice gaining strength as I spoke. If what they say is true, it could change everything. I just need to understand them better before I approach him again. Lily's eyes widened with interest. What do they say? Can I help you figure it out? Her unwavering support was like a lifeline, pulling me from the depths of despair. Together, we pored over the papers, the atmosphere shifting from one of tension to collaboration. With each line we deciphered, I felt a renewed sense of purpose emerging within me. The documents were filled with technical terms, but as we unraveled their meanings, I began to see the cracks in my son's claims. There were stipulations that he had clearly overlooked, evidence that pointed to a more complex reality than he had presented. It was exhilarating, the feeling of empowerment washing over me like a warm wave. See, Lily exclaimed, a smile spreading across her face. This is proof that you have a stake in this. You can't let him dismiss you any longer. You are just as much a part of this legacy as he is. I could feel the anger brewing once more, but now it was tempered by clarity and purpose. I had to approach this strategically, not with blind rage, but with the clarity of someone who had every right to be involved in the family business. You're right, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. I need to confront him again, but this time I'll be armed with the truth. He won't be able to dismiss me as he did before. I'll show him that I'm not just his mother, I'm a force to be reckoned with. Lily nodded, her support unwavering. And I'll be right here with you every step of the way. We can plan this out together. With the sun beginning to dip low in the sky, casting a golden hue through the window, I felt a sense of clarity envelop me. The road ahead would not be easy, but I was finally ready to reclaim my voice and my husband's legacy. I was done being passive. I would stand tall and face whatever lay ahead. The time for action was fast approaching, and I was ready to prepare for the confrontation that would define my path forward. As the last of the daylight faded, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me, invigorating my spirit. I would not let my son's ambition overshadow our shared history. I would fight for my rightful place, not just as a mother but as the matriarch of our family. It was time to take a stand, and I would do it with the strength and dignity that my husband had always believed I possessed. The planning phase of my revenge was just beginning, and I was determined to see it through to the end. As the sun set beyond the horizon, casting a warm, golden light that filtered through the curtains, I found myself sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by the remnants of my husband's life. The air was thick with a mix of nostalgia and tension, the scent of old wood mingling with the faint aroma of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen. I could hear Lily's footsteps approaching, her presence a comforting balm against the anxiety that had been building within me since our last confrontation. I needed to find a way to bridge the chasm that had formed between my son and me, yet the thought of facing him again filled me with a sense of dread. Emma, do you think he'll even listen? Lily asked as she settled beside me, her voice tinged with concern. I could see the worry etched across her features. She had been my rock through all of this, her unwavering support a lifeline in my sea of turmoil. I took a moment to collect my thoughts, feeling the coolness of the hardwood floor beneath me, grounding me in the present. I have to believe he will, I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil brewing within. My heart raced as I contemplated the conversation ahead. Could I truly reach him? I remembered his face, the arrogance, the dismissal of my feelings. The image stung like a fresh wound, but I couldn't let it dictate my actions. He's still my son, and I know there's a part of him that understands the value of family. Lily nodded, her eyes bright with encouragement. Maybe you could start by reminding him of the good times, the moments that made you both who you are today. Her suggestion struck a chord deep within me, igniting the flicker of hope that had been buried under layers of anger and betrayal. As I sat there, memories flooded my mind. Family vacations, laughter shared over homemade dinners, and the way my husband would always emphasize the importance of unity. Each recollection was a thread, weaving together the fabric of our family that I desperately wanted to preserve. You're right, I said softly, the warmth of determination rising within me. Perhaps if I remind him of those moments, I can help him see beyond his ambition. I took a deep breath, envisioning the conversation I would have with my son. I wanted to approach him not as a foe, but as a mother seeking understanding. The thought of doing so made my heart thump loudly in my chest, a persistent reminder of the vulnerability that accompanied this delicate endeavor. How could I speak to him without triggering his defensiveness? I could almost hear my husband's voice in my head, urging me to be brave, to stand firm in my convictions. "What if you write it down?" Lily suggested, her voice breaking through my thoughts. "A letter, perhaps. It might help you organize your feelings and present them clearly. You can express your love and remind him of his father's wishes." The idea struck me like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the path forward. The act of writing felt cathartic, a means to channel my emotions into something tangible. I could pour my heart onto the pages, crafting a message that conveyed my love, my pain, and my desire for reconciliation. Yes, a letter. "That's perfect, Lily. It'll give me the clarity I need to express myself without the heat of the moment clouding my words." As I gathered my thoughts and began to draft the letter, I felt a mix of hope and trepidation. The pen glided across the paper, the ink spilling out my feelings like a dam bursting. I wrote about my love for him, the pride I felt as a mother, and the dreams I had for our family. Each word became a step toward healing, a bridge meant to connect the two of us amidst the chaos that had erupted. With every paragraph, I could feel the tension in my chest easing, replaced by a resolve that I hadn't felt in weeks. I had the power to shape this narrative, to reclaim my voice in a situation that had left me feeling powerless. As I wrote, I paused, allowing myself to reflect on the man my son had become. Ambitious, yes, but also lost in the pursuit of something that threatened to tear us apart. When I finally finished, I read the letter over, my heart swelling with a mix of hope and apprehension. Would he understand? Would he even care? I folded the letter carefully and placed it in an envelope, the weight of it feeling both heavy and liberating. I was ready to take this step, to reach out and show him that family meant more than just inheritance. "I think this is a great start, Emma," Lily said, her smile genuine as she glanced at the envelope in my hands. "You're taking control of your narrative, and that's powerful, but remember, it's just the beginning. You'll need to be prepared for whatever comes next." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow around us, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I was no longer trapped in a cycle of grief and humiliation. I was taking action, reclaiming my voice and striving for reconciliation. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it with hope and determination, armed with the truth and the love that had always bound us together as a family. The morning light filtered through the sheer curtains, illuminating the space where I had spent far too many hours wrestling with my thoughts. I had spent the night poring over the legal documents I discovered, the truth hidden in their lines, a beacon of hope amidst the storm of betrayal. Each word I read felt like a lifeline, a thread connecting me back to my husband's wishes, reminding me that I was not powerless in this fight. The weight of my resolve pressed against my chest, fueling the fire that had been smoldering since my son's declaration at the funeral. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs, and steeled myself for what lay ahead. The plan was simple yet powerful. I would confront my son, armed not only with the truth but with the love and legacy of his father. The thought made my heart race. I could almost hear my husband's voice urging me to stand firm, to reclaim my place. I slipped the documents into an envelope, the crisp paper whispering promises of justice as I tucked it under my arm. The atmosphere in the family home was thick with tension as I entered, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the warm notes of baked goods from the kitchen. My son was there, flanked by family members who were oblivious to the storm brewing within me. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of nervous energy and fierce determination. As I approached, conversations hushed, all eyes turning toward me, their expressions a blend of anticipation and concern. I locked eyes with my son, trying to gauge his mood. He wore a confident smirk, but there was a flicker of something deeper, perhaps doubt. I took a step closer, my heart pounding against my ribcage, each beat echoing the truth I was about to unveil. "We need to talk," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. He leaned back against the table, crossing his arms defensively. "What's there to talk about? I've made my plans, and you should just trust me to handle things. You're overreacting." The dismissal stung, igniting the fire within me. "Overreacting? You don't get to decide what I feel. You think this is just about business. This is about honoring your father's legacy, about recognizing the sacrifices made for this family. You cannot just take everything because you want it." I felt the words pouring out, raw and unfiltered, each syllable layered with the grief and anger that had been building inside me. The room held its breath, a palpable tension thickening the air. I could see a flicker of surprise in his eyes, and for a moment I thought I saw the boy I once knew, the one who cherished family above all. But it was quickly replaced by defiance, his posture rigid as he shot back. "You don't understand what it takes to run a business, Mom. You've always been in the background. And who do you think held this family together while you were busy chasing your dreams?" I countered, my voice rising. "I've been here supporting your father, building this life. I won't let you erase everything he worked for." My emotions surged like a tidal wave, threatening to overwhelm me, yet I stood my ground, refusing to back down. The reaction was swift. Murmurs erupted around the room, family members exchanging uneasy glances. I could feel the weight of their judgment, the suffocating atmosphere thickening around us, but I was undeterred. This was my moment, and I would not let it slip away. In that charged moment, I revealed the envelope containing the legal documents, holding it up as if it were proof of my existence. These documents will show the truth, the reality you've chosen to ignore. You might think you can usurp my place, but I have just as much right to this legacy as you do. His expression shifted, the arrogance replaced by something akin to fear. What do you mean, what's in there? I could see the flicker of doubt crossing his face, the realization that perhaps he had not fully grasped the implications of his actions. You'll see, but know this. I will not let you take what is ours without a fight. This family deserves better. As I spoke, I could feel the weight of their stares, the room charged with anticipation. I was no longer the passive figure in my own life. I was standing tall, ready to reclaim my identity and my husband's legacy. The air crackled with the tension of our confrontation, a tipping point that would define our family's future. The battle lines were drawn, and I was prepared to fight for what was right, to protect the memories of my husband and the love we had built together. The turning point had arrived, and I was ready to face whatever came next, my heart pounding with both fear and fierce conviction. This was my moment of defiance, a stand against the betrayal that had threatened to tear us apart, and I would not back down. As I sat in my study, the warm glow of the desk lamp illuminated the pages of notes scattered before me, each scribbled line a testament to my resolve. The scent of fresh ink mixed with the faint aroma of the lavender candles still flickering in the corners of the room, casting shadows that danced along the walls, mirroring the tumult within my heart. I felt the weight of my decision pressing down on me, thick and palpable like the humid air before a storm. My fingers brushed over the papers, tracing the outlines of my plans as I steeled myself for the confrontation that loomed ahead. Each word I wrote felt like a step toward reclaiming my identity, a reminder that I was not just a widow or a mother, but a woman with a legacy to protect. I had begun to draft a strategy, a blueprint of how I would present the truth to my son, armed with the knowledge I had gleaned from the legal documents. The thought of confronting him filled me with a mix of dread and determination. I needed to ensure that he understood the gravity of his actions, that this was about more than just a business. It was about honoring his father's memory and our family's legacy. I paused, glancing out the window at the suburban street where the sun was beginning to set, casting an orange hue over everything. It was a picturesque scene, but within me chaos reigned. Memories of my husband flooded my mind, his laughter, his unwavering support, the dreams we had built together. I could almost hear his voice urging me to stand firm, to fight for what was rightfully ours. As I inhaled deeply, the scent of the jasmine from the garden outside wafted through the open window, grounding me in the moment and fueling my desire to push forward. Lily's presence was a constant source of strength as she joined me with a fresh cup of tea, the steam rising like a comforting embrace. "How's it coming along?" she asked, her eyes scanning the array of notes and papers that littered my desk. I could see the concern etched on her face, and it spurred me on, reminding me of the weight of my actions not just for myself, but for her and the future. "I'm outlining my approach for the confrontation. I need to make him see that he can't just take what isn't his without acknowledging the hard work that built it all," I replied, my voice steady yet filled with an undercurrent of emotion. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, a mixture of fear and excitement igniting my spirit. "You need to be strategic, Emma. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. You have to make him understand without pushing him further away," Lily advised, her tone calm yet insistent. I nodded, her words echoing in my mind as I considered the best way to frame my arguments. I had to appeal to the son I had raised, not the arrogant young man who had stood before me at the funeral, claiming ownership of our legacy. I started to jot down key points I wanted to address, each one a building block toward the confrontation. I would remind him of the sacrifices we had all made, of the love that had gone into creating our family. I needed him to see that taking control of the business did not equate to taking my place in our family. The thought of his dismissal, the way he had scoffed at my contributions, still stung like a fresh wound, but I couldn't let my anger cloud my judgment. "You have to show him the truth, Emma. It's not just about your feelings. It's about the facts. Use the documents to your advantage, but also speak from the heart. He needs to hear you, not just listen," Lily encouraged, her eyes shining with determination. I could feel the strength of our friendship bolstering my resolve, the warmth of her support infusing me with a newfound sense of purpose. As night settled over the town, the shadows deepening and the world outside fading into darkness, I felt a surge of empowerment. I would not allow my son's ambition to overshadow our shared history. I would fight not just for my husband's memory, but for my own dignity and place within the family. The time for action was drawing near, and I was ready to prepare for the confrontation that would change everything. With each word I penned, I felt myself transforming from a passive observer into a fierce protector of my family's legacy, determined to reclaim my rightful place in our story. The day of reckoning had finally arrived, the air thick with anticipation as family gathered in the living room, a space filled with echoes of laughter now tinged with tension. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting soft shadows that danced across the floor, but the warmth it offered felt distant compared to the chill of confrontation that loomed over us. I stood at the edge of the room, clutching the letter I had written, my heart racing as I looked at my son, a figure of ambition and arrogance, his confidence radiating like a beacon, casting me in the shadows. As I approached, the murmurs of my family faded into a heavy silence, every gaze fixed on us as if the air had been sucked out of the room. I could feel the weight of their anticipation pressing down on me, igniting a fire within that I hadn't known existed. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the faint aroma of floral arrangements, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the adrenaline coursing through my veins, urging me to speak, to reclaim my voice. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with emotion as I locked eyes with my son. He leaned back against the arm of the couch, arms crossed defiantly, an expression of casual arrogance plastered across his face. "Oh. About what, Mom? The future of the family business?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Because I've got big plans and honestly you should just let me handle it." His dismissive attitude felt like a slap, igniting the embers of my determination into a roaring flame. "Let you handle it? You don't get to decide that alone?" I shot back, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking under pressure. "This isn't just about business, it's about our family, about honoring your father's legacy. You can't just take everything because you think you deserve it." I could feel the heat radiating from my body, the intensity of my emotions spilling into the room, creating a palpable tension that seemed to electrify the air. The room fell silent, the only sound was the quickening rhythm of my heart as I held my ground, refusing to back down. I glanced at the faces of my family, their expressions a mix of disbelief, concern, and curiosity. I could almost hear their thoughts swirling around me, a cacophony of judgments and unspoken words, but I pushed them aside, focusing on the battle at hand. He stepped forward, his expression hardening, the smirk fading from his face. "You're being dramatic, Mom. You've never really had any stake in this anyway," he retorted, his voice rising, each word cutting deeper than the last. I felt the sting of his words, yet they fueled my resolve. I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I recalled the countless nights my husband and I had worked side by side, pouring our hearts into building this life. "Not a stake, I've been here every step of the way. Supporting your father, nurturing this family, you don't get to erase my contributions." I stepped closer, my heart pounding in my chest, my determination solidifying like concrete. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of uncertainty passing through them, but it was quickly replaced by defiance. "You don't know what it takes to run this business, Emma," he yelled, the walls reverberating with the force of his anger. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, reminding myself of the woman I was, not just his mother but a partner who had fought for our family's future. "I understand more than you think. I've been the glue holding this family together while you've chased dreams. I won't let you tarnish your father's legacy." As the words left my lips, I felt an exhilarating shift within me, a surge of power that had been long suppressed. The tension in the room thickened, my family watching in rapt attention as the confrontation intensified. My son's face flushed with anger, but beneath it I saw a flicker of doubt, a crack in his facade. I pressed on, needing him to see the truth. "You think this is all yours to take, but you're wrong. You've overlooked the very foundation of our family, the love, the hard work, the sacrifices." I felt my voice rise, each word resonating with the weight of my convictions. He recoiled slightly, the bravado faltering. "What are you saying?" he asked, his voice low, almost uncertain. In that moment of vulnerability, I seized the opportunity. "I found the legal documents, Jake. They reveal the truth about the ownership of the business. You need to know that it's not just yours by right, it's shared. Your father intended for both of us to carry on his legacy together." I could see the gears turning in his mind, the realization dawning slowly as I laid bare the evidence of our shared history, the bonds that had once tied us together. The silence that followed was deafening, the weight of my revelation hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I could feel the eyes of my family on us, the tension palpable as they waited for his response. Finally he spoke, his voice trembling slightly, as if he were grappling with the enormity of the truth. "You really think I'd just take everything without considering you?" "You did, Jake. You stood in front of everyone and claimed it without a second thought." I countered fiercely, the memories of that moment flooding back, the raw pain of his betrayal igniting my anger anew. He glanced away, his bravado failing, and for a moment I saw the boy I had raised, the one who had once looked up to me with admiration. I didn't mean to," he began, but I cut him off, my heart racing with the urgency of the moment. "But you did, and it's time to confront that reality. You have to acknowledge your father's memory and the sacrifices we all made. This is not just about you." I felt the fire within me burning bright, pushing me to stand my ground, to reclaim not just my husband's legacy, but my identity as a mother and a woman. As I spoke, I could see the walls around him starting to crumble, the anger wavering, replaced by confusion and regret. The room felt charged with unspoken words and emotions, the air thickening with unresolved tensions. Finally, he looked back at me, his gaze softening, a hint of understanding dawning in his eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you, Mom, I just thought." "Thought what? That you could take everything without considering me? Without recognizing the woman who stood beside your father all those years?" I pressed, my heart pounding as I fought against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. He fell silent, the weight of my words sinking in, and in that moment I knew I had reached him. The room was still, the tension shifting as we both confronted the reality of our situation. I had stood up for myself, for my husband's legacy, and for the bond we once shared. Now it was up to him to decide how to move forward. As we stood there, the silence enveloping us, I felt a sense of resolution wash over me, a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. I had fought for what was right, and now it was time for the healing to begin. The confrontation had been fierce, but it had also opened a door, a chance to reclaim not just our family's legacy, but the love that had once bound us together. In that moment, I realized that while the road ahead would still be challenging, I was no longer the passive observer in my life. I was Emma, a woman who had fought for her identity, and I would continue to fight for the love and legacy that mattered most. The aftermath awaited us, but with the truth finally revealed, there was a glimmer of hope on the horizon, a chance for reconciliation and healing amidst the remnants of our shattered family bonds. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the air in the living room felt charged with unresolved emotions. I stood at the center, my heart still racing from the intensity of our exchange. My son's face had shifted from arrogance to confusion, and I could see the weight of my words settling upon him like a heavy shroud. As the silence stretched on, I felt a mixture of relief and trepidation, uncertain of what would come next. The family members who had gathered around us began to murmur, their voices a soft backdrop to the storm of thoughts swirling in my mind. I could hear snippets of their conversations, some expressing concern, others whispering about the unexpected turn of events. I glanced at my mother, her expression a blend of surprise and contemplation. Perhaps she was beginning to see the complexity of our situation, the necessity of standing firm in the face of ambition. Jake finally broke the silence, his voice trembling slightly, as if he were grappling with the realization of what I had laid bare. I didn't know how much it all meant to you," he admitted, his eyes searching mine for understanding. My heart softened at his vulnerability, the anger that had fueled my confrontation now giving way to empathy. "It's not just about the business, Jake. It's about honoring your father's legacy and recognizing the sacrifices we've all made as a family. I need you to understand that I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I want us to share this burden together." The tension began to ease, the atmosphere shifting as Jake took a deep breath, absorbing my words. I could see the gears turning in his mind as he processed the depth of my feelings. It was a moment of reckoning, not just for him, but for our entire family. As the evening wore on, we began to navigate the delicate terrain of our new reality. Conversations flowed more freely, laughter punctuated the air, and for the first time since the funeral, I felt a flicker of hope. The family dynamics were beginning to shift, the weight of my son's ambition tempered by a newfound understanding of our shared history. Later that night, as I sat alone in my room, the soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminating the pages of my journal, I reflected on the journey I had undertaken. I had confronted my son, faced the deep-seated fears that had held me captive, and emerged with my dignity intact. The scent of lavender filled the air, a reminder of the calm that had settled in my heart. I knew that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, there would be challenges to navigate and conversations to have, but I felt a sense of acceptance wash over me. I was no longer just a widow or a mother. I was a woman reclaiming her identity and her place within the family. As I closed my journal, I felt a sense of peace envelop me. I had fought for my husband's legacy, for my son's understanding, and for my own voice. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to embrace whatever came next. I had taken the first step toward healing, and with it, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I would honor my husband's memory and build a future for our family, one that acknowledged the love and sacrifices that had shaped us. The legacy was ours to share, and together we would navigate the complexities of family, ambition, and love. I was no longer afraid. I was ready to face the world with courage and conviction, knowing that I had reclaimed not just my voice but my rightful place in our story. In the quiet of my living room, the remnants of the confrontation still lingered in the air like the fading scent of the lavender candles that danced softly in their holders. I sat in a chair that had been my husband's favorite, the fabric worn but comforting beneath me. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow that enveloped me in a sense of peace, a stark contrast to the storm I had weathered just days before. My heart was still racing, but now it pulsed with a renewed sense of purpose. I had faced my son, and in doing so, I had not only reclaimed my voice but also my identity. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. The struggle for power, the betrayal, and the emotional turmoil had all led to this moment of clarity. I had learned that standing my ground did not mean tearing my family apart. Instead, it had opened the door to understanding and healing. I could see my son in a new light, not just as the ambitious young man who had sought to take everything, but as a person capable of growth and change. I recalled the faces of those who had stood with me, offering support when I felt most alone. My mother, my friend Lily, and even my estranged son, they were all part of this complex tapestry of family. It was a reminder that the bonds of love could withstand even the most challenging of storms. I resolved to share my story, to inspire others who might find themselves in similar situations, feeling lost or overshadowed. With a deep breath, I picked up my phone and began to type a message to my friends and family, inviting them to a gathering where I could share my journey and the lessons I had learned. I wanted them to know that it was possible to reclaim one's identity, to stand strong against the tides of ambition and betrayal. And as I hit send, I felt a surge of hope. I had fought for my husband's legacy, and I would